Nobody talks about the African American cooking methods that were mocked, banned, or called dangerous for decades. Turns out, science now says our grandparents were ahead of their time. These weren't mistakes, they were medicine, nutrition, and survival wrapped in tradition. Here are 30 banned African American recipes scientists now say were genius. Cooking with lard and animal fats was the backbone of every African American kitchen before health officials declared war on it in the mid-20th century. Families rendered their own lard from hog fat, storing it in tin cans and using it for biscuits, fried chicken, and pie crusts. The fat gave food a richness that vegetable shortening could never match. When government guidelines pushed margarine and hydrogenated oils as healthier, traditional fats were labeled dangerous. But recent studies reversed that verdict, showing natural lard contains less saturated fat than butter and none of the trans fats in processed substitutes. Scientists now recognize that animal fats Black grandmothers relied on were more stable for frying and carried fat-soluble vitamins. What was dismissed as backward turned out to be nutritionally sound. Chitlins, slow-boiled with vinegar, were long considered one of the most controversial dishes in African American cuisine, ridiculed by outsiders and warned against by food safety officials. The dish required hours of meticulous cleaning and boiling, a process many authorities dismissed as risky. But families understood something science recently confirmed. Slow boiling with vinegar created an acidic environment that destroyed harmful bacteria while tenderizing the meat into something rich and flavorful. The vinegar acted as both a natural disinfectant and flavor enhancer, cutting through the heaviness of the pork. Modern food scientists now acknowledge this method of acidic slow cooking was effective food safety long before refrigeration existed. The women who stood over those pots were practicing microbiology without the title. Poke salad greens were a springtime tradition in African American households across the rural South, gathered wild from fields when fresh vegetables were scarce. Health officials warned against eating pokeweed for decades, calling it toxic. And they were partly right. Raw pokeweed contains compounds that cause illness. But Black families already knew that, which is why the greens were always boiled in multiple changes of water before being sauteed with onions and fatback. This process removed the harmful toxins while preserving impressive nutrition. Scientists now confirm that properly prepared poke salad is rich in vitamins A and C, iron, and antioxidants that rival cultivated greens. The knowledge of safe preparation was passed through generations of women who understood botany through practice. Sassafras, tea, and filé powder were staples in African American kitchens, especially in Creole communities where ground sassafras leaves thickened gumbo and brewed root bark made a fragrant tea. In the 1960s, the FDA banned sassafras oil after studies linked saffron to liver damage in rats. The ban criminalized a tradition that had nourished families for centuries, but modern researchers revisited those findings and noted the doses given to rats were astronomically higher than normal cooking use. The sassafras leaves in filé powder contain almost no saffron, and homemade tea was far too diluted to pose real risk. Scientists now recognize sassafras also contains anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial compounds supporting immune health. What was banned turned out to be beneficial. Salted and smoked meats for preservation were essential survival techniques in African American households long before refrigeration existed. Families cured pork with heavy salt, hung it in smokehouses, and stored it for months through entire winters. Health officials later warned these methods produced excessive sodium and carcinogenic compounds, pushing families toward processed alternatives. But recent science re-examined traditional smoking and found that coal smoking at low temperatures produced far fewer harmful compounds than industrial processing. The salt in-home curing acted as a natural antimicrobial without chemical additives found in modern deli meats. Scientists now acknowledge traditionally smoked meats were safer and more nutritious than factory replacements. Eating organ meats like kidneys and hearts was a weekly occurrence in many African American homes, especially when families stretched every part of a butchered animal. Health authorities discouraged organ meat consumption for decades, warning about cholesterol and fat content. But nutritional science has reversed course, recognizing organ meats as some of the most nutrient-dense foods available. Kidneys are packed with B12 and selenium, while hearts provide concentrated coenzyme Q10, a compound modern supplements now market at premium prices. Black grandmothers who fried kidneys with onions or stewed hearts with gravy were delivering superfoods before the term existed. The very foods dismissed as poverty eating contain the exact nutrients wellness culture now celebrates. Cooking in unlined cast iron pots was the standard in African American kitchens for generations, with heavy skillets and Dutch ovens passed down like heirlooms. When non-stick coatings and aluminum pans arrived, cast iron was labeled old-fashioned. Health officials raised concerns about iron leaching into food, but scientists discovered that cooking in cast iron provides beneficial dietary iron, particularly important for populations at risk of anemia. The seasoned surface from years of cooking with animal fats formed a natural nonstick coating far safer than synthetic chemicals in modern pans. Recent studies linked chemicals in nonstick coatings to serious health concerns, making grandmother's trusted cast iron look smarter with every passing year. Black walnut cooking and baking was a cherished autumn tradition in African American families, especially in the Upper South where wild trees grew abundantly. Families gathered fallen nuts, cracked them by hand, and used the rich meat in cakes, cookies, and candy treats. Commercial production ignored black walnuts in favor of milder English walnuts, dismissing the wild variety as too bitter. But research revealed black walnuts contain significantly higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds than commercial counterparts. The bitterness that made them unpopular signaled polyphenols now linked to heart health and cancer prevention. Families who foraged these stubborn nuts were harvesting one of nature's most powerful health foods. Bone broth, simmered for days, was a kitchen constant in African American homes where pots of bones and herbs stayed on the back of the stove for hours. Neck bones, ham hocks, chicken backs, and oxtails were slow cooked until marrow dissolved into rich golden liquid that became the base for soups, gravies, and rice. Modern health trends have only recently caught up to what black grandmothers always knew. Long simmered bone broth is rich in collagen, gelatin, and amino acids, supporting gut health and joint function. The practice of saving bones and simmering them was dismissed as thrifty desperation, but scientists confirm it extracts minerals in highly bioavailable forms. What wellness brands sell for premium prices was once free in every black kitchen. Raw honey in home remedies and cooking was a trusted practice in African American households, used to soothe sore throats, dress minor wounds, and sweeten teas and baked goods. Health officials warned against unpasteurized honey for decades, citing bacterial contamination risks and advising only commercially processed varieties. But modern research validated what folk medicine always taught: raw honey contains powerful antibacterial enzymes, antioxidants, and prebiotics that pasteurization destroys. Studies show raw honey is effective against antibiotic-resistant bacteria and supports wound healing in clinical settings. The grandmothers who spooned raw honey into tea and spread it on burns were practicing evidence-based medicine before the term existed. Fermented corn drinks and porridges were a dietary tradition carried from West Africa into African American kitchens, where families allowed corn-based mixtures to sour naturally before cooking them. Health authorities viewed fermentation as spoilage and warned families to discard anything that had turned. But the process was intentional and rooted in ancestral knowledge. Scientists now understand that naturally fermented corn produces beneficial lactobacillus, bacteria that strengthen gut health and improve digestion. The fermentation increases bioavailability of B vitamins and breaks down phytic acid, which blocks mineral absorption. Communities consuming fermented porridges were building stronger immune systems and extracting more nutrition from a staple crop. What officials called spoiled food was a sophisticated nutrition technique. Cooking with potash and lye was a practice African American families used for generations, particularly in preparing hominy and nixtamalized corn. Wood ash was soaked in water to create an alkaline solution that softened dried corn kernels and removed their tough outer hulls. Health officials condemned lye as dangerous, with no place in food preparation. But food scientists now recognize this as nixtamalization, a technique that dramatically increases the nutritional value of corn by releasing bound niacin and improving protein quality. Without this treatment, communities relying heavily on corn risked pellagra, a devastating deficiency disease. African American and indigenous families who processed corn with lye were preventing nutritional disease centuries before scientists understood the chemistry. Eating wild game like rabbit and squirrel was a regular practice in African American households, especially in rural communities where hunting supplemented limited food budgets. As commercial meat expanded, wild game was dismissed as unsanitary and inferior to store-bought beef. Health officials warned about parasites carried by wild animals, but modern analysis tells a different story. Wild rabbit and squirrel meat is leaner, higher in protein, and richer in omega-3 fatty acids than commercially raised livestock. These animals foraged on natural diets free from antibiotics and growth hormones, producing meat scientists now consider superior in nutritional profile. Families who hunted and prepared wild game were eating cleaner protein than most grocery stores offer today. Blackstrap molasses as a daily tonic was a health practice passed through generations of African American families. A spoonful stirred into warm water or milk each morning was believed to strengthen blood, ease joint pain, and boost energy. Doctors dismissed it as folk superstition with no medical basis, pushing families toward commercial vitamins. But modern analysis shows blackstrap molasses is remarkably rich in iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and manganese, minerals that address deficiencies common in communities with limited dietary access. The iron content alone makes it one of the most effective plant-based sources for combating anemia. Scientists confirm this thick, dark syrup delivers concentrated minerals in bioavailable form that rivals supplements at a fraction of the cost. Frying in tallow and rendered fat was standard practice in African American kitchens long before seed oils dominated. Grocery shelves, beef tallow and pork lard were saved after cooking, strained, and reused for frying everything from chicken to cornbread. When industrial vegetable oils arrived, health campaigns labeled animal fats as heart disease culprits and promoted seed oils as healthier. But emerging research challenges that narrative, showing tallow is rich in fat, soluble vitamins, and has a more stable molecular structure at high heat than many seed oils. Polyunsaturated seed oils oxidize during frying, producing inflammatory compounds scientists now link to chronic health problems. The animal fats black families cooked with turned out to be chemically safer for high heat cooking. Chewing sugarcane straight from the stalk was a common practice among African American children and field workers in the Deep South, where cane grew abundantly. As refined sugar and processed sweets became widely available, raw sugarcane was dismissed as primitive and unsanitary. Dentists warned it would destroy teeth, and health officials saw no value in the practice. But scientists have since discovered that raw sugarcane juice contains polyphenols, antioxidants, and minerals, including iron, calcium, and magnesium, that refine sugar strips away entirely. The fibrous chewing action also stimulates saliva production, which naturally protects tooth enamel, the opposite of what dentists feared. Families who let children chew cane stalks were providing natural nutrients and oral health benefits that processed sugar could never deliver. Eating dandelion greens and roots was a foraging tradition in African American communities, where families gathered these so-called weeds from yards and fields for salads, sautés, and teas. Lawn care culture spent decades trying to eradicate dandelions, labeling them nuisance plants. But nutritional science revealed dandelions as one of the most nutrient-dense plants available, packed with vitamins A, C, and K, along with iron, calcium, and potent antioxidants. The roots contain inulin, a prebiotic fiber that supports healthy gut bacteria. Studies have also shown dandelion extracts possess liver protective and anti-inflammatory properties. Black families who gathered and cooked dandelions were harvesting powerful medicine that grew freely at their feet, while others poisoned it with herbicides. Slow cooking neck bones and oxtails for broth was a tradition rooted in both necessity and deep culinary knowledge in African American homes. These bony, tough cuts were considered waste by mainstream butchers and sold cheaply or given away. Health officials warned that fatty, gelatinous meats contributed to high cholesterol and heart disease. But scientists now recognize that the collagen extracted through long, slow cooking converts to gelatin, a compound that supports gut lining repair, joint mobility, and skin health. The marrow released during hours of simmering provides essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins. What was labeled as unhealthy poverty food turns out to be among the most therapeutically valuable cooking methods known to nutrition science. Using vinegar as a meat tenderizer and preservative was a cornerstone technique in African American kitchens, where cooks soaked tough cuts in vinegar baths and used vinegar brines to extend the life of perishable foods. Health authorities promoted chemical preservatives and refrigeration as superior, dismissing vinegar as outdated. But food scientists now confirm that acetic acid in vinegar effectively inhibits dangerous bacteria, including Salmonella and E. coli. The acid also breaks down tough muscle fibers, making inexpensive cuts tender without chemical tenderizers. Research shows vinegar consumption aids blood sugar regulation and supports digestive health. The simple bottle of vinegar in every Black grandmother's kitchen was doing the work of modern food science. Cooking with sorghum syrup instead of sugar was widespread in African American households across the rural South, where families grew and milled their own sorghum cane. When refined white sugar became cheap, sorghum was dismissed as an old-fashioned substitute used only by those who could not afford better. But nutritional analysis has proven sorghum syrup far superior to refined sugar, containing significant levels of iron, calcium, potassium, and antioxidants that white sugar lacks entirely. The darker the syrup, the higher the antioxidant content, making the thickest traditional batches the most nutritious. Scientists now classify sorghum as a functional food with anti-inflammatory properties. The sweetener black families relied on out of necessity turned out to be the healthier choice all along. Eating chicken feet for joint health was a practice that drew ridicule from outsiders, but quiet confidence from African American grandmothers who swore by their healing power. Chicken feet were simmered for hours in soups and broths, their cartilage dissolving into a thick, gelatinous liquid served hot with rice or cornbread. Doctors dismissed the idea that eating cartilage could help joints, calling it superstition. But modern research proved those grandmothers right. Chicken feet are among the richest natural sources of collagen, glucosamine, and chondroitin, compounds now sold as expensive supplements. The gelatin produced during cooking also supports gut lining integrity and skin elasticity. What pharmacies package in capsules for premium prices, Black kitchens were serving in steaming bowls for generations. Fermenting vegetables in crocks was a preservation method African American families practiced long before the modern fermentation craze. Cabbage, peppers, green tomatoes, and beans were packed into stoneware crocks with salt and left to ferment in cool corners of the kitchen. Health inspectors discouraged the practice, warning about bacteria and unsafe methods. But scientists now understand that lactofermentation creates an environment where beneficial bacteria thrive while harmful organisms cannot survive. These fermented vegetables are rich in probiotics supporting immune function and digestive health. The practice preserved vitamins through winter when fresh produce was unavailable. Black families who packed crocks each autumn were building gut health long before probiotics became a billion-dollar industry. Pine needle tea for winter illness was a remedy brewed in African American households across the rural South whenever colds, coughs, or fevers struck. Fresh pine needles were steeped in boiling water and sipped warm, sometimes sweetened with honey or molasses. Mainstream medicine dismissed it as folk nonsense with no therapeutic value, pushing families toward commercial cold remedies instead. But laboratory analysis has since revealed that pine needles contain remarkably high concentrations of vitamin C, up to 5 times more per weight than orange juice. They also contain shikimic acid, the same compound used in the production of antiviral medications. The tea's natural expectorant properties help clear congestion, and its antioxidants support immune response during illness. What doctors dismissed was a potent natural remedy all along. Cooking with rendered bacon grease was an everyday practice in African American kitchens, where a jar of saved drippings sat beside the stove as the most used cooking fat in the house. Greens, cornbread, eggs, and beans were all cooked in bacon grease that added smoky depth to everything it touched. Nutrition campaigns spent decades warning that bacon fat caused heart disease, urging families to switch to vegetable oils. But recent research has shown that bacon grease is lower in saturated fat than butter and contains oleic acid, the same heart-healthy monounsaturated fat celebrated in olive oil. The jar of drippings also eliminated food waste and reduced grocery costs. Scientists now acknowledge that moderate use of natural animal fats poses far less risk than the processed alternatives that replace them. Eating watermelon rind pickles was a tradition in African American households that turned what most people discarded into a tangy, sweet preserve. The white rind was peeled, cubed and pickled in spice vinegar with sugar, cinnamon, and cloves, then sealed in jars for months of use. The practice was dismissed as poverty cooking, eating scraps that respectable families would throw away. But food scientists have discovered that watermelon rind is rich in citrulline, an amino acid that supports blood vessel health and circulation. The rind also contains fiber, vitamins B6 and C, and potassium. The pickling process preserved these nutrients, while the vinegar added its own digestive benefits. Families who pickled watermelon rinds were practicing zero-waste nutrition decades before it became fashionable. Sun-drying fruits and herbs for storage was a preservation technique African American families relied on throughout the South, spreading sliced peaches, apples, peppers, and herbs on screens or rooftops under the summer sun. As commercial canning and refrigeration expanded, sun-drying was labeled primitive and unreliable by food safety authorities. But scientists now recognize that sun-drying preserves many nutrients more effectively than high-heat canning methods, particularly vitamins A and C and beneficial plant compounds. Dried herbs retain their medicinal properties for months, and dried fruits concentrate natural sugars and fiber into portable, shelf-stable nutrition. The technique required no equipment, no electricity, and no expense, only knowledge and patience passed down through generations of resourceful cooks. Using corn silk tea as medicine was a quiet tradition in African American homes, where the silky threads pulled from fresh corn ears were dried and brewed into a pale golden tea. Most people discarded corn silk as waste, and doctors dismissed the tea as having no real health benefits. But modern pharmacological research has confirmed that corn silk contains potent compounds with diuretic, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant properties. Studies show it supports kidney function, helps manage urinary tract issues, and may assist in regulating blood sugar levels. The tea was gentle enough for children and pregnant women, making it a versatile household remedy. Black families who saved and brewed corn silk were extracting real medicine from what the rest of the world threw in the trash. Soaking grains and beans overnight before cooking was a non-negotiable step in African American kitchens, where dried beans and cornmeal were dietary staples. Grandmothers insisted on long soaking even when faster methods became available, and younger generations sometimes questioned the necessity. But food scientists have validated the practice. Soaking activates enzymes that break down phytic acid, a compound blocking absorption of iron, zinc, and calcium. It also reduces lectins and anti-nutrients that cause digestive discomfort. The result is food that is easier to digest, more nutritious, and gentler on the stomach. What seemed like stubbornness was precise nutritional science practiced instinctively by women who understood food at a level textbooks are only now catching up to. Eating whole fish, including the head, was a common practice in African American coastal and river communities where nothing from the catch was wasted. Fish heads were simmered into stews, fried crisp, or added to broths for flavor and nutrition. Mainstream American food culture considered eating fish heads primitive and unappetizing, encouraging only boneless fillets. But nutritional research shows fish heads are rich in omega-3, fatty acids, collagen, and essential minerals concentrated in the brain, eyes, and cheek meat. The bones release calcium and phosphorus during cooking, enriching broths with bioavailable minerals. Communities that ate whole fish were getting significantly more nutrition from each catch than those who only ate the fillers and discarded the rest. Dirt dauber, nest clay eating, known scientifically as geophagy, was a practice some African American women maintained quietly, particularly during pregnancy. Small amounts of specific clay were consumed for settling nausea and satisfying mineral cravings. The practice was condemned by doctors as dangerous behavior rooted in ignorance. But anthropological and medical research revealed that geophagy is practiced across cultures worldwide and serves real biological functions. Certain clays bind toxins in the digestive tract, provide bioavailable minerals like iron and calcium, and soothe gastrointestinal distress. Studies of pregnant women in multiple cultures show the practice correlates with reduced exposure to dietary pathogens. What medicine dismissed as disorder was an ancient instinct for detoxification and mineral supplementation. Fried fatback was the foundation of flavor in African American kitchens, rendering golden lard while creating crispy slices that seasoned greens, beans, and everything in between. Grandmothers sliced thick pieces from salted pork back and fried them slowly in cast iron until the fat melted and edges turned golden brown. The rendered fat was saved in coffee cans, becoming the essential cooking medium for countless dishes. The crispy pieces were eaten as a side, crumbled over vegetables, or enjoyed with cornbread between meals. For families with limited money, fatback provided both seasoning and substance from one affordable cut. Children grew up with the sound of sizzling pork filling morning kitchens. This technique represented resourcefulness, turning one ingredient into both flavor and fuel.
Ash-roasted sweet potatoes were one of the simplest yet most beloved tricks, cooked directly in the coals of an outdoor fire. Families placed whole sweet potatoes under hot ash, letting them roast slowly until their skins blackened and their insides caramelized. The result was tender, smoky, and sweet, needing no sugar or butter to taste indulgent. Children pulled them from the ashes with excitement, blowing off the dust to reveal steaming orange flesh. For many, they were both snack and supper, eaten hot in the yard after long days of work. The trick required no pots, pans, or seasoning, just fire and patience. Ash-roasted sweet potatoes symbolized how resourcefulness could turn the simplest crop into comfort. They were food of the land, as pure as it came, connecting families to earth and fire. Today, they are almost forgotten, replaced by oven-baked versions. Yet the memory of pulling sweetness from ashes lingers as a testament to survival and tradition, wrapped in smoky warmth.
Pear preserves captured the honeyed sweetness of late summer in amber jars that brightened winter breakfasts for months. Grandmothers gathered ripe pears from backyard trees, peeling and slicing them into heavy pots with sugar and lemon juice. The mixture simmered slowly, stirred often, until pears turned translucent and syrup thickened to coat a spoon. Filled jars were sealed and stored in cellars where they lined shelves like golden treasures. Spread on hot biscuits or swirled into oatmeal, pear preserves delivered concentrated fruit flavor surpassing anything store-bought. Children watched grandmothers test the set by dropping spoonfuls onto cold plates, learning skills that preserved food and tradition. These preserves connected families to land and seasons, reminding them that abundance required preparation to last.
Hog cracklin gravy was a trick to bring bold flavor to otherwise plain meals of rice, potatoes, or cornbread. Cracklings, the crispy bits left from rendering pork fat, were stirred into pan drippings and flour to make a rich, textured gravy. The salty crunch of the cracklings turned a simple starch into something hearty and satisfying. Families loved it because it stretched scraps into abundance, proving that nothing from the hog was wasted. It was often poured over large bowls of rice, transforming the cheapest ingredient into a meal fit for a feast. Children scooped it eagerly, not realizing they were eating thrift disguised as indulgence. The gravy carried the smoky, savory essence of pork, a taste that defined many kitchens of the South. Today, hog crackling gravy is nearly forgotten, replaced by smoother gravies with no trace of grit. Yet in its time, it embodied the art of survival cooking, where resourcefulness brought joy to the table. Hog crackling gravy was poverty made flavorful.
Molasses pulled candy was a family project that turned simple ingredients into chewy, golden ropes of sweetness shared across generations. Grandmothers boiled molasses with sugar and vinegar until it reached the hard crack stage, testing by dropping bits into cold water. The hot mixture was poured onto greased platters and allowed to cool just enough to handle. Then the pulling began, with buttered hands stretching and folding until candy transformed from dark brown to golden with light texture. Children took turns pulling, arms growing tired, but spirits high as candy changed color before their eyes. The finished ropes were twisted and cut into pieces that stayed chewy for days. Making pulled candy brought families together on winter evenings when entertainment meant creating something sweet from nothing.
Wild persimmon bread carried the sweetness of the land itself, made from fruit gathered by hand in the fall. Families waited until the persimmons were soft and ripe, their astringency gone, then mashed the pulp into batter with flour, eggs, and spices. The bread baked into loaves that were dense, fragrant, and naturally sweet. Foraging for persimmons was a seasonal ritual, with children climbing trees and filling baskets under the autumn sun. The fruit was free, abundant, and full of vitamins, making it a precious resource when money for sugar or store-bought sweets was scarce. Wild persimmon bread tasted like the season, a warm reminder that even hard times could offer comfort. It often appeared on holiday tables, stretching humble ingredients into a dish that felt special. Today, it is nearly forgotten, overshadowed by modern quick breads like banana bread. Yet the memory of wild persimmon bread connects us to resourcefulness, tradition, and the joy of turning foraged fruit into nourishment. Each slice told the story of making the most of what nature gave.
Hoghead cheese was a traditional cold cut that grandmothers prepared after hog killings, turning scraps into a sliceable, savory loaf. The hog's head was cleaned thoroughly, then simmered for hours with onions, bay leaves, and vinegar until meat fell away from bone. Grandmothers picked through the cooked meat, adding sage, thyme, black pepper, and crushed red pepper for heat. The meat was packed into loaf pans and covered with reduced cooking liquid, which set into firm gelatin overnight. Sliced thin and served cold on crackers, hoghead cheese offered tangy spice flavor that store versions could never capture. Making it required patience and skill, passed down through generations of women who wasted nothing. This dish connected families to traditions stretching back through slavery and survival.
Chitterling fritters were another way African-American kitchens stretched every part of the hog, ensuring nothing went to waste. Chitlins, or pig intestines, were cleaned, boiled, and then chopped finely before being mixed with flour, eggs, and seasonings. The mixture was formed into patties and fried in hot fat until golden. The result was crispy on the outside, tender inside, and packed with flavor. Families prized fritters because they could feed many mouths with very little meat, transforming scraps into something satisfying. For children, the fritters felt like a snack, even if they came from humble origins. The smell of frying chitlins was strong, but the taste was treasured by those who grew up with it. Chitterling fritters were not just food, but part of a tradition that honored the skill of turning the least into the most. Today, they are rarely made, their labor-intensive preparation out of step with fast meals. Yet they remain a reminder of resilience and ingenuity, showing how survival could be fried into something unforgettable.
Pig's feet and rice delivered rich, gelatinous comfort that warmed bellies and stretched budgets further than almost any dish could. Grandmothers cleaned the feet thoroughly, scrubbing between each toe before placing them in large pots with water, onions, and bay leaves. The feet simmered for hours until meat became tender and cooking liquid turned thick with natural gelatin. Seasoned with salt, pepper, and hot sauce, the feet were served over fluffy white rice that soaked up rich, porky gravy. The collagen in pig's feet was believed to strengthen joints and nourish skin, making this both food and folk medicine. Children learned to navigate small bones and appreciate the sticky, satisfying texture that defined this traditional meal. This dish proved that cheapest cuts often delivered deepest, most satisfying flavors.
Peanut shell tea was one of those humble tricks that proved nothing ever went to waste. When peanuts were boiled for snacks, families would save the discarded shells, boil them in water, and strain the liquid to make a faintly nutty tea. It had a thin, earthy flavor, more comforting than bold, but it filled mugs and warmed bellies when nothing else was available. For households short on coffee or other luxuries, peanut shell tea was a way to make do, a reminder that every scrap could serve a purpose. Children sometimes wrinkled their noses at its taste, but adults appreciated its warmth and thrift. It was more than just a drink. It was survival steeped in resourcefulness. Today, it has been nearly forgotten, remembered only in stories of lean times and hard winters. Peanut shell tea reflected a mindset where creativity was as important as ingredients. It is a reminder that sometimes even the husk of something familiar could be transformed into a simple comfort.
Pickled watermelon rind turned summer's leftover scraps into a tangy, sweet preserve that lasted well into winter months. Grandmothers trimmed the green outer skin and pink flesh, leaving only white rind to be cut into uniform pieces. The rinds were soaked overnight in salted water to firm the texture before being drained thoroughly. A pickling syrup of vinegar, sugar, cinnamon sticks, and cloves was poured over prepared rinds in sterilized jars. After processing, jars were stored in cool cellars where flavors developed. Over several weeks, the result was a crunchy, sweet and sour condiment served alongside meats or eaten as a snack. This preserve represented the waste-nothing philosophy that sustained families through lean times when every scrap carried value and purpose.
Ground acorn flour. Bread was a survival food born from foraging, using acorns gathered in the fall to make flour. Families would crack the nuts, leach them in water to remove bitterness, then grind them into meal. Mixed with cornmeal or wheat flour, the acorn flour became hearty loaves of bread with a nutty flavor. Though labor-intensive, it provided sustenance when store-bought flour was too costly or scarce. Children often joined in shelling acorns, their hands stained from the tannins, while adults handled the soaking and grinding. The bread itself was dense and filling, a reminder that the forest could feed families if they had the patience to prepare it. For many, it was a food of hard times, eaten more out of necessity than delight. Today, it is almost forgotten, except among foragers or survivalists. Yet ground acorn flour bread reflects the ingenuity of past generations who made the land itself their pantry. It was resilience baked into every loaf, proof that nothing was overlooked.
Pepper jelly was a fiery sweet preserve that grandmothers ladled over cream cheese or used to glaze meats with southern flair. Fresh hot peppers from gardens were chopped fine and simmered with sugar, vinegar, and pectin until the mixture reached jewel-like consistency. The jelly ranged from mild to blazing, depending on the cook's preference and peppers available that season. Poured into sterilized jars and processed for storage, pepper jelly kept for months in cool pantries. Served over cream cheese with crackers, it became the appetizer at every church, social, and gathering. Grandmothers brushed it over ham during baking, creating glaze that balanced sweet heat perfectly. This versatile preserve showed how garden peppers could elevate simple foods into something a guest remembered.
Scuppernong wine. Syrup was a sweet trick pulled from the wild grapes of the South, boiled down into a thick syrup. Families harvested scuppernongs in late summer, pressing them for juice and reducing the liquid into a golden syrup poured over biscuits or pancakes. The syrup captured the musky sweetness of the grapes, offering a taste of abundance even in lean times. Children loved it as a rare treat, licking it from spoons when mothers turned their backs. For adults, it was a way to preserve the harvest and add luxury to otherwise plain meals. This syrup reflected the creativity of households that refused to waste even the smallest fruit. Though it required time and patience, the payoff was a jar of sunshine to last through winter. Today, scuppernong wine syrup is nearly unknown, its memory tied to homesteads and family gatherings. Forgotten now, it remains a symbol of thrift and sweetness pulled straight from the land. It was heritage in a jar, poured with love.
Which of these banned recipes do you remember from your family's kitchen? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more forgotten traditions that science is finally catching up to.